So one thing I did really frequently in both my C and processing class and in my own time is that I would take a video of the code that I did for an assignment and explain how I got there, so that people who are still confused will understand how to do the assignment. If they're still confused on things like the concepts that are being implemented or like exactly how to go about with doing this project. So what I am going to do is something different because this code is actually fairly straightforward. I'm not going to show you my code for this. I'm going to rewrite it from scratch, and I'm going to show you what we have to do for this. So clearly, our class that contains the code for what defines our palindrome is going to be called palindrome. So that's why this file is called palindrome. And well, I can't actually rename it, so I have to show you the code because this has to have that name. So I will go line by line and explain it to you. So first thing you need to know is what is the string builder, and for that I'm going to explain the string builder to you. The string builder is a object that essentially has certain properties that strings don't have. They're not strings themselves. They can't be used in places of a string, but think of the difference between an int and a float. They're both numbers, but they cannot be used interchangeably. So the string builder has a variable length array that contains characters. So think about like in C, when you want to input a string, you'd be like my char 16, and then you put 15 characters, 16 characters in there. But remember it starts with 0, so technically there's 17 in there with a null character. But here the character array is variable in size, and so you can set its length. You can append things to it. You can insert a certain character. You can delete characters, but these are the two you want to focus on: reverse and toString. And as a matter of fact, I just pulled this one up and I noticed that this one actually has its own palindrome code. So if you want to use this as a resource, it's the docs.oracle.com/javasc/tutorial. You can read it. So this is just, if you Google it, you can find it. So again, these ones are the most important, because to find palindrome, you want to see if the reversed string, when converted to toString, is the same as the original string. If it is the same, then you you have the same value. So what does that mean? So here are a list of palindromes that I use as a test case. All of these are palindromes. Now you may ask, this wouldn't be a true palindrome if you go character by character. There's a question mark there, there's a question mark there. This is capital, and as you know, capital A and lowercase a are not the same. So to truly make this a proper palindrome checker, we need to make sure that we need to strip the white space. We need to strip the white space because that doesn't count in a palindrome. We need to convert everything to lowercase, and we need to remove any non-alphanumeric character. So how do we do that? So here is our palindrome checker, and yes, the teacher spelled it wrong, but it has to be without the E there. So here is the important part that you have to pay attention to. This is a Var Args, and this Var Args allows us to take in as many strings as you want and puts them into this object. And this object is like, it's almost like an array, so that we can iterate through them as an array. And all this is trying to see is, are all of these palindromes? It's not saying which ones are palindromes, which ones are not palindromes. That would be a little bit more complicated. So all we need to do is iterate through the array, and the moment that we find something that is not a palindrome, we break out of it. But first we need to process the string. So for every string that's inputted in my string, so again remember this is like an array that contains all the inputted string objects, and all the var is just the ... appended to the data type. So all I need to do is make a string builder out of the string. So we're calling each string inputted the string, and we are saying that the new one reversed is this value reversed, and then the string 2 is this value to string. So this is a string, a plain string that was reversed by the string builder operation and then converted to a string and then put into string 2. So now we have the original value, which is the string that's forwards, and we have the one that's reversed, and all we need to do is compare these strings to make sure that they're the same. So, but first we need to convert them all to lowercase, so that we can, so we need to convert both of them to lowercase, so that we can make sure that uppercase A and lowercase a are treated as the same character. Excuse me. And then here, we remove all, this is the operation to remove all white space. So this is the character that represents white space, and this one is saying replace everything that isn't an alphanumeric character with a null character. There's nothing there, so replace it with a null character. So we do this for both the original string and the reversed string. Now, these strings, or any inputted strings, are just lowercase, without spaces, and without punctuation marks. So including these special characters, these quotations, which are actually different quotation marks than these in ASCII. So these quotation marks are different So it strips those quotation marks, and strips every punctuation, and now it's just a string of letters. So now we can't just directly compare these two, because if I just typed if string2 equals the string, it would return false, because the equals operator in Java, unlike in Python, tests whether the object is the same object. So even though they're storing the same value, they're different objects. So Java treats them as different. Whereas in Python, if you compared these two strings using equals, you would get, or whatever the equivalent in equals is, you would get the true, because Python treats what's stored in the values rather than if they're the same object. So if these, so we defined a value up here that says is palindrome, and it's automatically equal to false. So if the new string, if the string is equal to string 2, if they're equivalent, and this is how you type it, you say that it is a palindrome, and you set it to true. Otherwise, you set it to false, and you break through the for loop, because there's no point in iterating through it further, because the moment that you find one that's false, then this one is no longer all palindromes, or not all strings are palindromes. And then you return is palindrome when you execute this function. So this class contains this method, and yes, we have the main here, and this is a test case, and this is not necessary for the assignment, but I put it in here anyways, so that I could test it out on these extended test cases. So here it just prints out the test case once I call this. So then I can then this is simply just looping through. This is just simply looping through the fact that well, I just want to it does not like this one. I should delete this one. This one does not. It's not compiling because of that one. I should delete this one. This one. So now it should compile. Oh, that's why it didn't work, okay. Java didn't want to compile. And okay. I don't know why I have to do this every time. But, I've noticed that Java is really, really slow. At least in, raw stuff. So here it can say that all of them are palindromes, so all of the listed ones are palindromes, and then we can test if it's a palindrome or not. So let's say my gaming name in the Tetris community, Sir Tetris, which is a palindrome. So it says true. So what if I wanted to type another palindrome? Was it a cat pie? So this is a palindrome, and it says true, even though it is the spaces would be different and would not. So this keeps going on until I type exit, and then it exits the program. So now this program needs to work with this. So if this code is executed and it is put in the same folder as this, which it is right now, then these ones, with all of the ones the professor put in, should theoretically execute. And it should return false because Sue is not a palindrome and Gosaya is not a palindrome. So as you can see, it says all strings were entered for palindromes, this is false. However, if we change this and added some extra ones, because again we put Var Args, so now this should return true, which it does. So this essentially allows us to make a palindrome checker based on the given assignment, with using Var Args and using Var Args and StringBuilder. So that's basically how you do this. I hope that this helped clear up any misunderstandings and anything that you are struggling with. So please let me know if you have any questions. I can definitely help you out with this. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching.